Hi, baby boomer fans. We are Jackie and Janine, the Pfeiffer Sisters, and love to talk about the 1950s, inviting you to reminisce with us as we explore experiences of that decade.
We chronicled the distinct memories of our childhood in our book, While the Windmill Watched, a slice of rural America in the 1950s, which takes you on a notably historic journey through that often forgotten decade. We also want to hear about your experiences during the 1950s. We will feature guests whose special stories of that decade will bring to mind magical moments of reflection, some with tears, some with smiles, but above all, a good dose of laughter.
We would like you to chat with us as we bring to mind the sights and sounds so familiar to that time in history. Grab your favorite malt or Green River. Make sure you are wide awake and get ready to be inspired about the 1950s. Welcome to the 1950s Fun Chat. Welcome, everybody. We are so glad you've decided to join us again this week with our new guest. She will bring some wonderful new memories and reminiscences about the 1950s when she lived as a young lady in Kansas. But before we introduce our guest, I would like you to take note of the red subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. Our subscriber list keeps growing, and we're just so elated about that. Please click on that if you would, and that way you will get notices that we have an upcoming broadcast in next week. And then also there, you'll see a thumbs up button. Well, click on that, please. We'd really like you to enjoy and know that you enjoyed this broadcast that we're bringing to you on the 1950s Fun Chat. So, Jackie, who's our guest today?
Well, before I tell you about that, I would like to remind our viewers to note a couple of things. While you're perusing the screen, please look on the bottom, and you see the www.wildthewindmillwatch.com. That is our web page, and please do go there for additional information. And also look at that beautiful upper right hand corner of your screen, beautiful photo of a North Dakota sunset. That is the cover of our book, While the Windmill Watched, a slice of rural America in the 1950s. I am excited to talk to you about Kathleen Brandt. Kathleen Brandt arrived at the hospital in Great Bend, Kansas on November 23, 1942. She grew up on a farm in Ness County, Kansas, not in the middle of nowhere, but in the middle of somewhere, 10 miles from the nearest town, 15 miles from the town where she attended high school, and 23 miles from the county seat, all in different directions from the farm. Now, this farmstead was on a quarter of land where her McFadden grandparents had owned it since the 1900s. It was located diagonally across the farm from her grandparents' farmstead. Now, the diversified farm grew wheat, corn, soybeans, and alfalfa, and a few head of livestock and chickens rounded out the livelihood. Kathleen still owns 2/3 of the farm, which denotes that the land has been in her family over a century. Welcome, Kathleen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes.
We are so glad you are here. And in one of your bits of information you gave us, you said this: "My daddy was my first grade teacher. And it is likely that when you both left the classroom, your father exchanged his teacher hat for his daddy hat. But I'm sure education continued on. So in what ways did your education continue beyond your classroom?"
I don't remember that specifically. We just did talk school at home, and it was a one-room country school. We had grades 1 through 8, somebody in every grade. I had one classmate. One of the classes was big. It had 4 kids in it. And most of them had 1 to 4 in the class. And because Daddy was a local person, he had gone to school in that school, and his parents had also gone to school in that school. So it was really a community of people who knew each other well. So as far as teaching beyond, I don't remember that specifically. I was the first one in our family. I was the oldest in the family, and my second daddy did not teach after that year. Sometimes we wonder why. But actually, I think it was because the state of Kansas said teachers must have some college education, and he didn't have any. And I think it was going to be quite an effort for him to achieve some. So, and his father was getting ready to retire from farming. So one year, my second grade, I got to go to town school. We moved into Nest City, and I got to go with, I think there were about 30 second graders in that class. So that was quite a switch for me. And living in town was, oh my gosh, Harvey calls that a watershed year. And it was. Definitely.
Tell us why it was a watershed year.
Oh, living in town was so different. We had an apartment in a duplex. So it was a new building, but we had neighbors in the same building. That was different. And they had children about the ages of our family. And the streets were paved. The country roads weren't. And we were fairly close to the school. And I remember walking to school. We were closer to the school than we were out in the country. So that's why it was a watershed year. After that, I went grades 3 through 8 back in the country school.
Oh, okay.
So what made the decision? Why was the decision made that your parents would move back to the country? Do you remember?
No, I don't know that particularly, except that I think it was the farming was easier rather than 23 miles from the farm, and about half of that was on dirt roads.
Right.
So it was easier to take care of the farming then.
Right. So I'm sure you had education beyond your education in that you took piano lessons, perhaps. Did other accordion lessons?
Oh, interesting.
Our house was very small, and there wasn't room for a piano, and I think it was too expensive. An accordion was less expensive, and my brother Pat and I shared that accordion, had lessons, I think generally once a week, and I think they were 50 cents a lesson.
Okay.
Did you play polkas and waltzes, or what kind of music did you play?
No, all of that. My brother Pat was better at the faster pieces. Under the double eagle, a march, he was really good at that. My fingers just didn't fly as fast as his, but especially I like the slower pieces.
The waltzes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Was the accordion heavy on your shoulders and your back? How did that affect your body?
Well, it was heavy. We started out with a lightweight 12 bass and then graduated to the 120 bass. Yeah, it was heavy, but I don't remember that it was an issue.
Okay. And did you play for the public?
Oh, there'd be talent shows around the country.
Yes.
And we would play. I always made a mistake.
Yeah. Oh dear.
Well, do you still play the accordion now?
No, I don't. But the accordion is still owned by one of my family members. My late brother Pat had it and his home, and so his widow still has that accordion. It needs a little repair.
Mhm.
It was really
Kathleen?
that's really a neat memory for you.
Yes, it is.
Well, Kathleen, like so many young people raised in the Plain States, many had the opportunity to become a 4-H member. So I remember you have been a 4-H member in your past, and if you can, perhaps condense those many years as far as maybe mention some highlights of projects or activities or responsibilities or something such as that. Or maybe even, how did 4-H benefit you? Lots to choose from.
Oh, yes, I have lots of memories of 4-H. In fact, I was going through a box recently and I ran across this
Yeah.
program.
Oh.
Kansas 4-H Clubs. The year is
Cool.
1954.
Okay.
And so I was 12 years old that year. And every month had a program.
Uh-huh.
I remember that. Yes.
And there was music. I was apparently elected the music leader that year. And so my name is always on that one, but I had someone else with me. And then we would have a project talk, a demonstration, a music appreciation, a health talk, parliamentary lesson,
Uh-huh.
and then somebody would have other program, and I don't remember specifically what that was. And that particular month, the Jordans would serve. And so I guess we had refreshments.
What kinds of refreshments were served at your meetings?
I don't remember that. In fact, I forgot that refreshments were served every month, but I do remember giving a demonstration one time. I had learned how to make noodles. And so in order to show the finished product, you had to make them earlier in the day. And so I had made noodles earlier in the day. I did the demonstration. Then I said, and now I will show how to cut them. But by that time, they were so dry.
Oh, dear.
They were just little short noodles.
So you had the chickens then that laid the eggs for those noodles?
I guess so. We had a few chickens, not too many, but that, yes.
Enough.
Okay.
Enough.
Did you have a favorite 4-H project?
Oh, always clothing. I got clothing, food preparation. And then when I was probably junior high age, to have something a little bit different, I enrolled in home improvement. And I remember that my parents helped me out so much. I got to decorate one of the bedrooms in our house, and I painted it Princess Pink.
Oh, fun. And then did you choose the window treatments and the bedspread and all
Yes,
pillows?
yes. And I was the only person in the county who had home improvement, so I got blue ribbons
Okay.
at the fair.
Good for
Yes.
you.
Did you have back to clothing? Did you have a 4-H fashion review too?
Yes, we did. And at the county fair, we always had model, let's see, what do we call it? Well, we always modeled something.
Sure.
And several years, I got to go to the state fair to model.
Oh, congratulations. We had interviewed a gal. She was in our second Fun Chat program, and she talked about 4-H in Northeast Iowa when she was a member, and clothing was her favorite project too. And she mentioned in fashion review that because at that time grooming was really emphasized, that in front of the judge you had to take off your outer clothes so that they could see your undergarments.
I just think that is appalling.
I know.
Never had anything like that.
No, that's quite strange.
Yes.
I remember I made a suit out of black and white houndstooth check wool,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a pencil skirt and a lovely short jacket. I actually still own that. And when I modeled it, for some reason, the judge wanted me to come to her, and she checked. She thought the waistband was a little too tight. It probably was.
Goodness sakes. Well, do you remember having something called 14 points of good grooming? Did that went along with it?
I don't remember that.
Okay.
Could be.
Did you show any livestock projects, Kathleen?
No.
Okay.
No. One year I decided I should try livestock, and that just was not for
That
me.
was you.
Okay. Yes. Now, everyone has there are projects, wonderful projects in the 4-H program that everyone can have an interest in. It's such a wonderful, wonderful program for the development of youth in our
It
country.
is.
And
It
then
is.
that's
We always had proper parliamentary procedure at every meeting. And when I learned that well, and when I went to high school, none of those kids, except for my cousin who was in our 4-H club, understood or knew anything about parliamentary procedure. And I was appalled at the first class meeting we had. They didn't know how to do anything.
right. I can relate to that because in some of the groups I am in, I feel the same way. I am appalled that people had not learned that along the way. And so that kind of leads into the other question, and that is one of the ways that 4-H benefited you and helped create the person you are today. And anything else maybe that comes to mind, how 4-H may have helped you?
Oh, probably some organizational skills, although I could use a few more. And
we're baby boomers. We give us grace on that end.
And some confidence. It was a confidence builder, I think.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
All righty.
Yes. And so, Kathleen, when we talk about, we're in your 4-H days and you were in high school or starting to adolescence towards the end of the 50s or in the 50s and getting into the dating routine. Tell us about dating in the 1950s.
Well, my parents never said you may not date until you're 16, but it was kind of understood.
Mm-hmm.
However, I always liked boys, and I looked
Must have been the
forward to
lipstick.
dating. Boys and lipstick.
Oh yes, lipstick.
So I probably always had a boyfriend in my mind.
Sure.
I didn't get to date the one I really wanted to. He had another girlfriend. But when I started high school, I did have a boyfriend, and we got to date when we turned 16.
Mm-hmm.
And our dates consisted of being picked up at my house, which was way out in the country. Turn here, turn there, turn here, turn there. And somehow they found the place, and we'd go to a movie, usually in Ness City. In the wintertime, it was in a theater, and in the summertime, a drive-in. So that was pretty important to me. And
Did you have the same boyfriend all 4 years through high school?
no. I got in a little trouble with some of my classmates because our town, Bazine, Kansas, was about 11 miles from Ness City, and Ness City was the county seat, and it was a larger town. And that's where I had gone to second grade. So I knew a lot of those kids, though, they had forgotten me. I was just one out of many. And I remembered them. So I was dating a local high school boy, Joel. He was very popular, nice looking, active, smart, everything you'd want, except Tom from the neighboring town saw my picture in the paper or something. I don't know what it was. And he decided he might like to date me. So I kind of remembered him from second grade and remembered who he was, but we were putting on the junior play, and I had to lead in the junior play. And as you know, you can see out into the audience. As I looked out, I thought, why is Tom Lynn here? And I couldn't figure this out. I mean, he's a Nessity boy. They don't come to the zine for anything. Later, I found out that he was there to see to see me and to take pictures of me. And then he asked me out for a date. And so then I had to drop the local boy to go out with the next. I was not a popular person anymore in my class. If I ever had been, the boys in my class shunned me for quite a while. Even the teachers noticed.
Wow.
I wanted to do that. So
how did you dress for your dates?
Oh, well,
wardrobe.
Not jeans.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't wear jeans except on the farm. So skirts, sweaters, dresses, coats. Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And did you wear nylons?
I don't remember that for a date. Always for church and always for other occasions. Yes.
Uh-huh. Yes. Well, that's interesting how you were shunned by your community for dating someone else.
I was.
They were jealous of how well you looked in your lipstick. Tell us about your lipstick. Your history.
I think when I look back at some of the pictures that were taken of me when I was a girl, age 7 and older, you could tell I was wearing lipstick. I loved lipstick.
And your mom didn't care.
Mom didn't care. Daddy didn't say anything. My uncle said, "Oh, it looked like you got into the barn paint."
Yes, I can hear that. So, how did you acquire that lipstick? Did you have money to purchase it with, or where did you go?
I don't know. I suppose sometimes I used Mother's. She liked lipstick too.
Did you ever take the end of the lipstick tube and rub it over your cheeks so that for rouge?
I don't think I did. I think so.
Or perfume? Did your mom have perfume, or did you have perfume that spring?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes, and wore perfume. Yes, definitely.
Do you remember the fragrance?
Was it Evening in Paris? That was one of them. Mm-hmm. Oh, but I had some others, but now I'd have to think a long time to come up with those.
Sure. Tell it. You mentioned about what you wore on a date, but what was the style of clothing like for young women in the 50s?
Oh, well, for a while, bobby socks were quite the style. And I always had bobby socks that you rolled down maybe a couple of times, never unfolded at the top. And
did you wear saddle shoes with them?
Oh, I was just going to say saddle Oxford. Oh, yes, that's what we call them, saddle Oxfords. And yes, I loved saddle Oxfords, especially in grade school. I don't remember that they went into high school with me. Probably, I don't know. Penny loafers. Sure. I really wanted penny loafers. I remember that. shoes were big to me.
Mm.
I loved high heels.
Yes. When did you wear your first pair of high heels?
When I was a freshman in high school, when
Okay.
our FHA, Future Homemakers of America, went to Garden City, I think, which was about an 80-mile drive from our farm, for some sort of a convention or conference. And we dressed up. And I remember Mother let me wear her high-heeled shoes, black suede high heels. They were
Oh, nice.
beautiful.
I bet. And did you have a hard time walking in them?
Well, I didn't think so.
Yes. I think we got to wear our first pair of high heels for eighth grade graduation, wasn't it, Jackie?
Well, I was trying to think about, that's probably true, but I do remember I got some new white ones for confirmation when I was a freshman.
Oh,
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
But because we were in a dress review, then we had an opportunity for practicing besides wearing them on Sunday.
mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
and shoe polish, keeping shoe polish on hand for those, because we had to keep those shoes looking nicely. And I think Dad, in our family, Dad was a lot more of a stickler of keeping shoes polished than Mom was.
Right.
Mhm.
And it was a pleasure. It was an honor for me to polish my dad's shoes.
Oh,
He was just very, he had a lot of finesse.
mhm.
Kathleen, as a farm girl, was it ever such that in that lifestyle that you were able to get away for a family vacation?
We did. My dad liked to drive. He liked to travel, and he was a bowler, and so sometimes he would go to Wichita for tournaments and would take us along. I remember how excited I was to stay in a motel one time. I think it was the Starlight Inn.
Yes.
In Wichita.
Real classy.
Right. Oh, it was just wonderful. And then when I was in 7th grade, they decided we would take a trip to Portland, Oregon, where one of his sisters lived. Now, his sister and her husband and their girls had come to visit us about every other summer. And so we knew them pretty well, but we had never been there. So we loaded up a new car. It was a 55 Ford, blue and white.
Okay.
It was really lovely, and drove to Oregon, and we spent quite a while there with the family in Oregon. Then about 2 years later, we got to go to California for Christmas. There again, family. And that year we had a new car, and my great aunt and uncle who lived near us, who played pinochle with my parents every Sunday night, almost in the winter for sure. Mm-hmm. They had family. Actually, some of their children and grandchildren lived in California. So we loaded up that car and 7 people.
Oh,
we went to California.
but no seatbelts were required.
No.
So you could move around in the car as you're driving.
That's right. And my brother Danny was pretty little, and so he wasn't a problem. He sat on somebody's lap and so forth. Yeah, we did it. It was a great trip. We got to go to Disneyland, and Disneyland was only about 5 years old. And we got to go to Santa Anita racetrack and got to go to the beach. Oh, that was exciting, as well as some family members, some of whom still live there.
Yeah.
Well, Kathleen, growing up in the 1950s, how have you found that your growing up years have really influenced your life as an adult?
I think partly it influenced my occupation as a teacher and my desire, our plans for me to stay home with the children as they were growing up. I didn't start teaching until our youngest was 10 years old, I guess. I went back and did some substitute teaching for a while. And as it worked out, I didn't start teaching full time until the youngest went to college. So I was a stay-at-home mom, and I think that was part of the influence of the 50s.
Yes, yes. And now if you can think of one, in wrapping up our chat today, if you can think of one pleasant or fun memory of the 1950s, but off the top of your head, what would that be?
One of my earlier memories is the 50th anniversary of my grandparents, McFadden.
Mm-hmm.
And I was about 7 years old. And they had invited the world to come out very far. Oh my goodness, that was exciting. And my uncle Martin from Portland had a movie camera, the old kind that you'd wind up and take movies with, and he took movies of that. My cousin has recently made that into DVDs.
Yes,
and
nice.
So it is fascinating. The sad thing is I have lost the names of a lot of those people that we can see, but not the family members. So we got to help. My cousin Pat Sue and I helped with the beverages, handing them around to the people. And that is a really pleasant memory.
How neat. Well, Kathleen, we are so happy that you joined us today to share your memories of the 1950s, or at least just get a glimpse of what your life was like growing up on a farm in Kansas during the 1950s time. And we want to mention, too, that Kathleen is a retired teacher and lives in Sitka, Alaska. So she has journeyed many miles from her home territory in her adult life.
Yes.
Our next week's guest is going to be another person who you will just really enjoy watching and hearing his story. He is from Bismarck. He went to high school at Bismarck High when I was there. His name is Greg Nelson. And if you are from the Bismarck area, you will very much remember the Corliss Nelson family and the exceptional musical talent that whole family had. Greg now lives in Nashville. He is a multi-time Grammy Award-winning producer. He's earned many Dove Awards himself, and he's produced for the likes of Christian artists Sandy Patty and Steve Green and so many more. But you will enjoy listening to his reminiscing about growing up in the 1950s. So until then, let your mind wander to the swell time of poodle skirts, soda jerks, and cool cars.
And be sure to click on the red subscribe button and the thumbs up icon. Now tell your friends, even your relatives, about the 1950s Fun Chat. And do join us every week on Monday, 8 p.m. Central. If you can't join us at that time, view our YouTube program found on YouTube, the 1950s Fun Chat.
And just in case you want to learn more about Jackie and me, the Pfeiffer Sisters, you can go to our website that's been ticking across the bottom of the screen, whilethewindmillwatch.com. And we do, of course, talk about our book there, and there are opportunities to purchase that book. In case you want a copy, or in case you want copies for your friends or your family, Christmas is coming, folks. So you can order them directly through the North Dakota State University bookstore, or we also have a list under the tab purchase, I believe it is, where you can see all the different locations throughout the United States so far who are selling our book, While the Windmill Watched. So remember, check out our website, whilethewindmillwatched.com. We've had so much fun today visiting with our guest, Kathleen Brandt. We hope that you have too. So we'll see you next time on the 1950s Fun Chat. Bye-bye.
We appreciate and thank each and every one of you, our viewers. Toodaloo.